Hello, everybody. Again, this is King Jones, the evangelist, with you, down with another hot topic. Hopefully, in 10, 15 minutes or less, but really, I don't know. We'll see how this, plays out. But, when I was doing my video the other day on homosexuality, and, you know, the question was if God says being gay is a sin, disobedience to Him, why did He make me that way? And the main answer to the question was um, in that video that God is making people now in a reproduction process, dealing with a corrupted seed, a degenerated seed, a decomposing seed and egg. He's dealing with man and woman reproducing after the fall. It's not like how he made Adam blameless and upright from Adam's fresh start, being the first man molded out of the dust of the earth and body and breathed into by the breath of life, or breathed in with the breath of life from God, become a living soul. So I sort of fleshed out how God dealing with a corrupted seed and a corrupted egg, because Adam and Eve didn't bother to procreate until after they had done the forbidden thing in which God promised them that they would die. They passed along that dying bodily condition and that spiritual death, that spiritual separation and estrangement from God, onto us, we, all their offspring. But I think that was just the tip of the iceberg, because that whole discussion sort of opened up the door for the elephant in the room, if you will. Like, okay, we have people walking around here, not just homosexual, but going a step beyond that. We got people going around here being born male, but saying since they were in their earliest youth, earliest childhood, they felt like they were female. Uh, Conversely, we have people who were born female, saying that from their earliest childhood, despite being female in the body, in their inner person, they felt like they were male. And the scripture on its surface does not account for these anomalies. We see God clearly making man and woman, making mankind, making man male and female, after his image, after his likeness. When God started things, everything was clear cut. So where did these distortions, these perversions of the human experience come from? How did we wind up with, you know, the production of mutated chromosomes that can produce such things as hermaphrodites and all these types of things that the scripture doesn't explain, that the scripture doesn't talk about? Where did all these things come from? Now, as I said, I believe that part of it is because that fall in the Garden of Eden and the death that was imposed upon the first man is spreading to his wife and through them all their children, affecting the biology of man right down to the DNA, the genes. That death is that was promised them is in all ways a decomposing and degenerating process. But I think it possibly may be more than that. And I admit that I'm entering into a bit of conjecture, but I want to flesh this out a bit. See if you follow along. Just some food for thought. I'm not being dogmatic about this, but I just want you to consider it. Think about some things like the fact we already covered, or I already covered, that God, when He created the sexuality of man, it was male and female. Man got together with female, female got together with man. It was no homosexuality. It was no men thinking that they're females. There was no females thinking that they're or feeling like they're males or men. There was no third sex, if you will. So how did these things come about? I think one of the ways that these anomalies, these phenomena, and in God's eyes, abominable things or monstrous things, came about through ceding authority over our being to demonic forces, to satanic forces. And one of the vehicles for that is authority transfer and declarations of submissiveness through sex talk. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm some old fuddy-duddy, some stick in the mud or what have you, but just follow along with what I'm saying, and as reasonable people consider what I'm saying. Think about what commonly enters the minds of men, male or female, during sex. When we start talking sex talk, as we getting it on, think about the things that we suddenly start wanting the other person to say, especially if we're in sexual sin, like fornication, adultery, pornography for some, and all types of things. Oh, tell me. Bear with me. We want them to tell us whose it is, whose box it is, whose stick it is. Y'all know the words. I can't say them because it might be children or young people watching this video, or people with ears that they made so holy that they can't interact with the world at large. Blah, blah, blah. No. Whose body is it? Tell me you belong to me. Say daddy. Who's your daddy? And all that type of thing. Who's your mommy? Call me mom. All that type of stuff. But think about what all those claims, all those things have in common. Consider it. It's asking the person to, one, asking the other person to make a declaration of submission to your authority, or you submitting to their authority. However, we don't need to get deep into that. But think about what it's involving. Who's your daddy? Especially that one. Well, who's your daddy? Call me daddy. Doesn't the scripture say, particularly to Jesus' disciples, didn't he teach them, do not call any man father, for you have one Father, even your Father in heaven, consider that. Who's your daddy? Say daddy. Who's your mommy? Say mommy. Consider all that is giving attributes of God to another person, or really another spirit, because it's a spirit behind that that's causing human beings to think up these phrases. That's why the thoughts run so common, even though it's spread out through different cultures and different geographical regions. Also, think about when they want you to say, uh, tell me who you belong to. It belongs to who? Blah, 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 all that manner of talk. What is that claim that's being made? It's saying in another way, submit to the other person, or submit to the person in control of the moment as your master. But are you really submitting to them or the spirit that's leading them to say that? And that's important. Because if at the root of that spirit is Satan and demons, as you thinking that you're bringing another person in subjection to you, or that you're conversely submitting to another person, you're actually giving authority over yourself, or bringing somebody else under the authority of that spirit that was at work in you in the moment, or that was at work in them. Whoever the controlling person is in the moment, the spirit that is in work in them. And think about what Jesus said to the Jews that wanted to kill him, like in John chapter 8. He said, the lusts of your father, he said the devil was their father, the lusts of your father you want to do. So it is possible that a lot of these off-script realities that has caused this confusion and perversion in the sexual identity realm has been caused by authority transfer in the acts of sex and sex talk, where people are driven to either get people to subjugate themselves to them, or are driven to subjugate themselves to others through confessions of mastery or declarations of mastery, parenthood, and people are made or caused to pass on their authority, transfer their authority over self, and that would include authority over one's DNA, over one's reproductive cells, over the seed in the egg in the womb, and give demonic authority, satanic authority over the reproductive cells in the body, causing the proliferation of these perversions through reproduction. So, stick with what Jesus taught. Call no man master, male or female, for you have one master, even Jesus Christ the Lord. And call no one Father, for you have one Father, even your Father in heaven. Call no man Daddy, even your Father in heaven, unless it be your earthly father, in that in only a familial context. But don't transfer your authority through these sexual declarations and confessions of either authority, rank, or confessions of submissiveness that we've talked about earlier. For you may just be saving or sanctifying your generation.